News every 15 minutes, weather every 10, and sports twice an hour.
Newstalk, KGVO, AM 1290 and now 101.5 FM.
You're listening to Montana Morning with Peter Christian.
The Water Rights Compact Bill down, but not necessarily out. Good morning, everyone. It's Montana Morning. It's Tuesday, April 14th, 2015. Skies mostly clear. We've got 42 degrees in Missoula. And our newscast is sponsored by a brand new news sponsor, AB Technology Solutions. Offering computer repair for homes and small businesses. Find them on the web at abtechnologysolutions.com. Our top story this morning, in an 11-10 vote yesterday, the Montana House Judiciary Committee tabled the controversial CSKT Water Rights Compact Bill. The Republican Representative Matthew Monforton from Bozeman, one of the 11 votes to table the bill. He says that, quote, lies, end quote, were at the heart of his decision.
Well, for me personally, it's the fact that there has been so much false information and so many lies perpetrated by the proponents, lies that have been echoed by the governor's office as well as the attorney general's office, that the tribes have aboriginal rights east of the divide that they will file if this compact fails.
Monforton says any CSKT Aboriginal claims east of the divide would merely be frivolous and that the treaty if passed would be catastrophic for irrigators near the reservation. Still, he believes the bill will likely pass if it ever gets to the House floor.
If the compact goes to the floor, unfortunately, the proponents have enough votes to prevail, and that's largely because of lies and deceit with regard to especially legislators east of the divide who have been threatened to vote for this compact because supposedly their farmers and ranchers will be threatened by lawsuits. It's all false, but unfortunately, false arguments are probably going to carry the day.
Monforton says the matter will likely be decided in the next 2 to 3 days. A 56-year-old Columbia Falls woman is suing the Flathead County Sheriff's Department, arguing that a SWAT team member used excessive force in shooting her in October of 2013 and that no one in the department stopped him. The federal lawsuit filed April 3rd said officers responded to Michelle Gentry's home after she locked herself inside and threatened suicide. Gentry's lawsuit said when she came out of her house holding a gun, a deputy fired 15 shots at her without warning, hitting her in the shoulder and back. The deputy said Gentry made eye contact with him, pointed her handgun at him, and said, "Do it." The sheriff's office has said the deputy reacted appropriately. The superintendent of Bonner's School, 50-year-old Doug Ardiana, remains suspended after a physical altercation with a male juvenile family member back on March 31st. His attorney, Paul Ryan, explains the incident.
There was definitely a physical confrontation, but I think the facts will bear out exactly how it happened, and you had a parent in a tough situation, and I think we're going to work through this, and right now the family's trying to work through this to make sure that they can all be stronger when they come out of this at the end.
Ryan says the court has lifted the restriction that the defendant be prohibited from his home at the family's request.
He is allowed to be at home. The family had gone back in requesting that he be allowed to come back in. At this point, just to make sure that we've got everything set up. They're not living together, but that's something that again may happen down the road.
There was no word on if or when Ardiana would be reinstated as superintendent of Bonner School. A company seeking to ramp up U.S. coal exports through 2 ports on the West Coast has changed its name after coming under new ownership. Ombre Energy North America announced yesterday it had changed its name to Lighthouse Resources Incorporated and remains headquartered in Salt Lake City. The company operates the Decker Mine in southeast Montana and the Black Butte Mine in southwest Wyoming. It's pursuing 2 major coal export terminals in Oregon and Washington. The faltering U.S. coal industry is counting on exports to Asia to boost its fortunes. However, the West Coast port proposals have run into determined opposition from environmentalists. A recent report by the Transactional Records Access Clearinghouse placed Montana just 1 spot from the very bottom of all states for wages, as we reported yesterday. It's tough news for Montanans to hear. However, Montana Bureau of Business and Economic Research Director Patrick Barkey says it's nothing new.
The first thing I'll say is that that's a pretty consistent ranking. We've been there for at least 15 years. There are different ways of measuring income, per capita income, average wages per job, different ways. They usually come up with pretty much the same story.
Barkey says Montana doesn't have a good mix of the higher-paying industries, such as finance and professional services. Another major setback, the fact that typically high-paying industries pay less in Montana than they do in other states.
So in everything from healthcare to even manufacturing to some extent. Montana jobs pay less than the average for those industries. The reason is mostly because the kinds of jobs that people have in Montana tend to have less responsibility, less impact of decisions, less of the things that typically go into making more money.
Markey said there's good news for Montana, though. Wages are going up and benefits are growing as well. They're just not going up fast enough to outpace other states. The Montana legislature has passed a bill to join every other state in the union by outlawing bullying. Democratic Governor Steve Bullock is expected to sign House Bill 284, which passed out of the House on a final 58-42 vote on Monday. The measure defines and prohibits bullying public school students in person and online. Montana is the only U.S. state without anti-bullying legislation on the books. Previous bullying legislation has failed in Montana as far back as 2003. Opponents have said the proposal would infringe on school districts' ability to enact local rules. Montana gas prices inched up another 2 cents over the past week. Petroleum analyst Patrick Dehan says the slow but steady increase is beginning to make a dent in motorists' pocketbooks.
Yeah, prices inched up again, averaging about $2.31 a gallon here today, up from last week. Still about $1 under what they were last year. It's been a little bit of an increase here and there, but it has added up. Prices across Montana today a bit higher, about 9 cents a gallon higher than where they were a month ago.
Prices across the state vary widely, but Missoulians don't seem to be getting the cheap end of the deal at this time.
Prices in Montana on the cheap side, Billings at $2.09, Great Falls $2.15, Bozeman at $2.21. Missoula, unfortunately, not among the cheapest areas in the state. The cheapest prices in Missoula averaging about $2.24 a gallon.
Though prices are still climbing, many are predicting that gas this summer will reach lows that haven't been seen in a decade. And finally, the Montana Democratic Party has appointed Nancy Keenan as its new executive director. Keenan has nearly 3 decades of experience in politics, serving in the Montana legislature and as state superintendent of public instruction. She ran for the U.S. House back in 2000, losing to Denny Rehberg. She also served as the president of NARAL, Pro-Choice America, a leading abortion advocacy group. Keenan is a graduate of Montana State University and has a master's degree from the University of Montana. She replaces Andrea Marcocchio, who held the post for less than 2 years. News Talk time now is 6:12.
News Talk, KGVO.
Missoula's official weather station.
Well, a cold front is right on our doorstep, and so we do expect temperatures to not change much as we head through the day. High of only around 46 degrees, a little bit of snow possible as well, and windy by this afternoon. I'm meteorologist Matt Gray for KCI 13.